The plan was simple. Take screenshots of the in-game stats of weapon and armor from before the update and compare them to the screenshots of the stats after. I didn't even have to build the blocks, I just had to pull them up from the hotbar, hover them in the air, and that will show the stats. I chose the world I thought had no mods that would influence the values. Unfortunately I was wrong, and it had a mod, so the record of the past is invalid, but the record of today is, and the tests I performed to see if the guns are any good are valid as well. So the point still stands. Are the Gatling walls still the end-all be-all when it comes to combat in Space Engineers? Especially now that making custom turrets is so easy. Let's go over the numbers and see for ourselves. Now we've got all the deets about Space Engineers Broadside 2 update. So let's see, how did the game change, was it worth the wait, and if the big question has been addressed. The state of the game before the update was that Gatling guns defeated all, missiles were useless, heavy armor didn't help, and use mods to make the entire system not even relevant. I took some screenshots of the block statistics that are displayed on the screen directly from the stats in the files. That functionality is provided by the build info mod, and that's only one thing that it can do. To be fair, I forgot to include things like armor panel sized for small grids and blast doors, but the update was advertised as changes to the guns, so my focus is on that. After the patch, large heavy armor block, weighed 3.3 tons, had integrity of 16,500, and explosive resistance of 85%. This wording could explain why missiles were so useless against anything really, especially the outside of your ship. Large light armor block with half a ton, had an integrity of 2,500 and explosive resistance of 85%. Respectively, small grids were 112 kilos, an integrity of 560, and 20 kilos, an integrity of 100. Both also had explosive resistance of 85%. Heavy armor panel for large grid weighed 330 kilos and had an integrity of 1650, while the light one weighed 100 and had an integrity of 500. Both also had explosive resistance of 85%. Now weapons, especially turrets, are a little bit more complex. First of importance, we've got auto-target, which is the AI, and all turrets have it. Next thing is max range for AI target detection. This remains 800 meters for every turret, or every large turret, which is gonna kinda ruin your automatic defenses, cause now some guns have a range of over 1.4 kilometers, and if someone mans them, they can engage targets safely from out of range. Now you should theoretically actually post someone on guard duty, or have a turret radar script and have someone monitor the screen. Next is rotation of pitch and yaw, which is pretty standard, the elevation and depression of a gun, and traverse from side to side, measured in degrees per second. The lighter the turret, the more degrees, and the faster you can aim it. Next stat is very important, accuracy. It's measured in a group at 100 meters. That means you have to remember, trying to hit a target at 1.5 kilometers away is still gonna be ineffective, and no amount of subsystem lock is gonna change that. So like I said, you can target your reactors, you can target your engines, and you can precisely lead the target. None of that means that you're gonna land the hit, or at least that you're gonna land them consistently. The reload statistic is self-explanatory. It means once your magazine runs out, you're gonna have to hang back and wait. Next up, of significance, fire rate. Fire rate is important even if your bullet does a lot of damage all at once. If your shot deals 75% of the enemy's health, you're still gonna have to shoot them twice. And if the smaller thing is still going at it and dishing out hits, you're falling behind and losing the race. How is magazine no reloading different from reload 6 seconds though? I'm pretty sure it means when you run out of shots you've got in the mag, you need to reload for 6 seconds, but it takes no time to take a pack of ammo from whichever container on your ship and put it next in line for the reload. And now we come to some real ballistics. How does the projectile out of the gun work? Type just tells you what kind of ammo it needs, the specific component it requires. And then, ship is damage to blocks. Character is damage to your Space Engineer. Headshot is only applicable to Space Engineer. Explode is described with area a particle effect appears in and damage it deals. Speed is how fast the projectile goes. and travel is how far it can go before it will effectively stop being rendered as anything. This is where your explosives blow up and bullets just harmlessly disappear. First up then, Gatling turret. Its accuracy is 1.05 meters at 100 meters, which means at half a kilometer you're essentially gonna hit 50% of your shots. Assuming that you're trying to hit a large grid block of 2.5 by 2.5 meters, which hardly has any justification. They're mounted guns, there's no fleshy jiggly person trying to hold it steady. It shoots 11.67 rounds a second, each dealing 90 damage to ships, 33 to the engineer, 120 with a headshot, and its traverse speed is 82.5 degrees a second. The bullet range is 800 meters, it goes 400 meters a second, and that's for the large grid. The smaller cousin interior turret, just in case you might think it will serve a new role in the new update, holds a very respectable group of 0.35 meters, making it as accurate as many static guns. It moves very quickly at 110 degrees a second. Unlike smaller turrets, it can automatically spot a target from 600 meters, which goes hand in hand with its range. It had a fire rate of 10 rounds a second, dealing 30 to ships, 20 to people, 60 with headshots. With each shot, the bullet went 300 meters a second, and nothing to tell us it would get any use in any other role. And now the bad old and useless missile turret for large grids. 1 3/4 meters group at 100 meters, shooting 1.5 rocket per 1 second. And here's a bit of a change. It clearly deals the same damage to ships and people, which is 500, but the radius of the explosion is 4 meters. Now, I don't know if every object within that radius takes 500 damage, or if every object is a one more thing to divide that 500 amongst. It just might be the former, but it won't help you. Still, with the range of 800 meters, the speed of the rocket starts at 100 meters per second, but it accelerates per 600 a second. That's a nice touch, only at the end of the travel, after 1.13 of a second, it explodes and doesn't matter anymore. However, now you can see a tag called gravity and marked N for no, so around the moons and planets it will still just go straight. You can now also see the penetration pool marked in red. Some say it means the missile has hit points and it can deal those hit points to the object, but it more precisely means from this pool, integrity of the blocks it hits is detracted, and once it reaches 0, it won't continue its travel and won't deal any more damage to the next block. So here, as soon as the missile touches anything, the rocket no longer has any penetration, and that's where the explosion happens, and that deals damage to everything around it. Small Gatling turrets' DPS and accuracy is as good as the large ones, with the same damage speed and range, only its AI auto-aim is 600 meters, and its traverse is faster by 30 degrees. Small missile turret, aside of AI range, faster traverse and lower reload speed, is exactly the same as the large one when it comes to ballistics and firepower. When it comes to static guns, we of course have nothing in terms of traverse, that all depends on your ship or the custom turret you've built, but that's theoretically traded for better accuracy. Large static rocket launcher holds a 0.35 meters group at 100 meters, making it pretty much 6 times better, shoots 2 rounds a second, making it faster, and reloads the tubes in less time. Only problem with it so far was that it has no AI aiming, obviously, and that it shoots missiles, which are useless. Small non-reloadable rocket launcher shoots only once per second, and you can't pipe it up. And reloadable rocket launcher is the same, only you can automate the reloading process. The best for last, however, the static small grid Gatling gun holds twice as good of a group, deals the same damage, has the same range, it's also smaller and cheaper to make. So between 2 shots a second, dealing 500 damage, amounting to 1000 DPS, and explosion resistance 85%, a small Gatling gun deals 1050 DPS, isn't resisted against, can shoot down missiles, and can't be shot down itself. And that's reasons why this is used for Gatling walls and not just more large Gatling turrets. So did the Broadside 2 update address that? Let's have a look. Obviously we've got a new arsenal to deal with. First thing that pretends it's not OP, the railgun for large grids. Railguns only come as static guns, so that they're more accurate. You know, the accuracy for a large grid is 0 meters group, pinpoint accuracy, all you need to do is actually aim. It's equally great for the small grid. Theoretical fire range for both is 1 shot for 3 seconds. The slugs are affected by gravity. Small one hurls the projectile at a kilometer a second, and it's got a range of 1.4 kilometers. Large one does it twice as fast and reaches the full 2000 meters. The small one doesn't cause any explosions, not even fake ones. The large one has a particle effect of 1 meter, but I don't know if it's really radius or diameter. Doesn't really matter. But the two important parts in railguns are penetration pool, which is 8000 for a small grid, and just 50,000 for the large one. That means it can go through 3 full heavy large armor layers and damage the 4th one. During the stream, the developer said, the best defense against a railgun is just not getting hit. Just make your capital ship light and agile. But a second limiting factor in a railgun is its recharge time, because it essentially runs on electricity like the jump drive. So how to make your gun shoot faster? Have more reactors. There aren't any theoretical stats about power consumption in the build info screen, so I don't really know how fast you can recharge a whole bitch like that. But I guess fortunately you can't really just slap it on a turret and set the AI detection to 2 kilometers for it to just aim at reactors of the enemy ship and disable it in 1 hit. You can turretize them, control them manually, and blast away at the adversary, causing mostly depressurizations. But the more of those you put on your ship, and the more you fire, the higher the chance you'll disable the whole ship right away. So far my guess is spread the reactors on your ships out, and have just a few backup cockpits, cause you won't really be dodging bolts flying at you at 2 kilometers a second. Alright, and with all this we've got the theoretical top DPS of 2666 for a small grid and 15,666 for the large grid railgun. The second, technically biggest and best gun is the artillery, and it comes in 2 variants, a turret and a static gun. This armament does not have a small grid equivalent. I'm gonna go over them one by one. The artillery turret is affected by gravity. It has 2 kilometers of range, with only 800 meters of automated AI aiming. The shell goes half a kilometer a second. It has 3 meters of flashy lights and a penetration pool of 17,000, which is enough to destroy a heavy armor block in 1 hit. It holds 1.05 meters group, which is some sort of attempt at balancing that gun, making you hit the enemy, but never where you're aiming, and never twice in a row. It reloads for 12 seconds after the salvo, it shoots 1.33 rounds a second, and turns very slowly at 11 degrees a second. Quite an important thing about this turret is that its pitch, the depression of the gun, is only minus 15 degrees and elevation is only 60. Even though it can traverse 360 degrees, it's still very much a forward-facing battery, making it unable to engage targets right above it. You should keep that in mind in space. The DPS is 12,781, point almost another one, and again with its relatively low accuracy and slow movement, it looks like it's supposed to be engaging large slow targets at a distance when someone's controlling it, and all this is balanced by missing and rate of fire, and with lock on time and rotation. It's supposed to be ineffective at close range. Fortunately, the sluggishness is fixed by making a custom turret and using the static version of this gun. With this solution, you're essentially trading compactness and resilience for speed and accuracy. Somehow, speed and accuracy in this situation go hand in hand. The static artillery piece has exactly the same ballistics as the turret, only it's twice as accurate. Stepping down the ladder, there's assault cannon turret for your medium target needs. This moves twice as fast as artillery turret at 22 degrees a second, shoots at 1.4 kilometers. The penetration pool is 4000, the round's muzzle velocity is 500 meters a second. It's affected by gravity, and with 3 rounds a second, that's 12,000 DPS, but then you've got 6 seconds of reload. Interestingly, its pitch ranges from minus 20 degrees of depression, 5 degrees more than artillery, to 75 degrees of elevation, 15 degrees more than artillery turret. But this lower caliber, lighter gun has a group of 1.22 meters, 0.17 meters more than artillery. And so this medium battery is supposed to be able to shoot smaller, faster target, only since the target is closer. Its accuracy is even lower and it will have harder time hitting it. Not only that, I'd like to remind you that max ship speed is always 100 meters a second, meaning there isn't really a concept of faster and slower ships. It's all about acceleration, and it's not gonna be harder to hit something when it's slowing down. Slower traverse is not gonna hinder you in that. It's all about the range. And even though this gun has 600 meters less of it, I think to make it equally effective or ineffective, the accuracy is worse than its bigger brother. The artillery is designed to hit or miss large targets at large ranges, while this one is designed to equally hit or miss smaller targets closer at the same rate. The fun part about this one, however, is that the static gun is only available for the small grid, so that, although softer, can be put on a faster turret that's more compact, and it will benefit from the accuracy of 0.7 meters, which is nearing again twice as good, and you also up the fire rate by a sixth, up to 3.33 rounds a second, and with the same damage, you achieve more DPS. Every other ballistic stat remains the same, just like with artillery variants. But I'm not done yet. Small grid does have a turret version of this gun. Its pitch is worse than the large grid version, its movement is twice as fast though, and with the same DPS as the static gun, it has the worst accuracy of 1.75 meters. Take notes, we've got one last armament to review. The last thing graciously bestowed upon us by Broadside 2 update is exclusive to small grid autocannon. The turret has the gun pitch of -10 to 90 degrees and full traverse, both at 55 degrees a second, an accuracy of 0.87 meters, fire rate of 2.5 rounds a second, and the damage stat block has a template of NATO rounds. The projectile deals 500 damage to ships, 85 to characters with 120 with a headshot. No explosions, it travels 400 meters a second, and its effective range is 800 meters with max auto target range of 600. The round is also not affected by gravity, and with the very important quick calculation of DPS, we were getting 1250, which is more than a Gatling gun. The static autocannon has a magazine of 200 with reload of 2 seconds, but its firepower is equal to the turret version. However, it is more accurate at 0.52 meters. These raw stats should already give you ideas about how well the update was implemented, and if it's quality versus quantity kind of change. But these all are just numbers on paper, so I did prepare a bit of a presentation when it comes to engaging some targets. Let's have a look. I would like to remind you that turrets have a capability of targeting missiles. One would assume it's there so you can defend yourself from the attack and shoot the incoming rockets down. I've prepared 2 gun emplacements, 1 a regular large Gatling turret and 2 a custom Gatling wall with 6 static guns. With this test we will see both if this mechanic has become of any use and what actually counts as a missile. First up, the double missile launcher on a fighter. Let's see how many rockets will get shot down. So out of 26 and 20 shots for a hexaple Gatling custom turret and a large grid Gatling turret, we have shot down effectiveness of respectively 7.1 and 5%. Working as intended apparently. Intended 10 years ago. That's not looking promising, is it? Let's keep going down the line though. What about railgun slugs? This, at best, is inconclusive, and at worst, it fucking sucks. Large Gatling gun turret doesn't even bother to aim at it, but the custom, faster turret gives it a good old college try and fails miserably. If you feel differently about a projectile going 2 kilometers a second being a feasible target for point defense systems, go ahead and let me know about your thorough analysis and demonstration. In the meantime, I'm gonna have you look at artillery piece. Oh boy, artillery shots are missiles, and out of 20 of them total, only one got shot down, and by the worst turret at that. I'd call that a fluke. Let's move on to assault cannons. Yes, assault cannon rounds are missiles, and no, the target missile function is not gonna help you against them. Now, judging by the autocannon damage template, that's just gonna be a bullet not targeted by target missile function, and you're free to disagree and show otherwise. But skipping that, we're gonna go over to a practical accuracy test, and by extent time to kill. The test is going to go over every kind of weapon, aiming at a large grid heavy armor block placed 500 meters away. Let's see how do the new weapons fare. And here are the compiled results. From left to right, top to bottom, we've got slowest to fastest, time to actually hit and destroy large, heavy armor block. With this we can see the accuracy of static artillery didn't really help in this run against the regular artillery turret. Small assault cannon turret with its single barrel and low accuracy ended up being the worst. Custom Hex assault turret managed to hit and destroy its target at 500 meters in 7 seconds, meaning it did fall behind in DPS, even though it's got greater penetration pool. And finally, small static Gatling walls have been dethroned by autocannons. So rejoice, it seems like we've got a new thing that's 40% more overpowered. But remember, even though autocannon has only 800 meters of range while the assault cannon can hit targets at 1.4 kilometers away, the live fire test shows at that distance 0.7 meters group is still a massive spread. It is less accurate than static artillery and has less range, but here it seems like you're trading chip damage for one shot, one kill. So before I recap everything, just a couple honorable mentions. I said railgun doesn't list the recharge time, and I might have said more reactors make it charge faster, but I tried it out, and not only does it say 59.2 seconds of recharge time, the amount of reactors doesn't matter. So from theoretical fire rate of 1 round per 3 seconds, we drop down to 1 round per minute, and overall DPS of over 15,000 to just a little over 800 damage a second. That's for large grid. The small grid obeys the same rules. Also, there is mention of using gyroscopes as armor, as they take up a cube of 1 by 1 by 1 and have an integrity of 63,000 compared to 16,500 for heavy armor, but they also weigh 4 times more and can only be attached from one side. So even though your ship would gain maneuverability, as in turning speeds, it would lose on mass, acceleration, and ability to move in and out of the planet's gravity. And even though agility sounds like a good thing for a ship, the integrity it provides just might be better suited to stations. So to summarize, this future of space engineers combat moved away from automation back to manned operation due to new long range but very close AI targeting. The whole defense part of the combat hasn't been touched, and the intended countermeasure is just don't get hit lol. Accuracy is still a balancing factor. The original weapons set has been made obsolete by the new additions, and we traded Gatling walls for autocannon walls and assault cannon walls. Even though you can now lock on to the target and have a lead indicator to hit it better, you'll still have to wait for it to appear before you even think about effectively firing at the enemy. Now you might say I didn't talk about such things as large and small static missile launchers and small missile and Gatling turrets, but remember, 800 meters of range, explosive resistance, and even less AI targeting range. So that's the full fucking review of the update. Can't wait for you to complain. One way or another, do leave a comment, tell me what I missed, tell me I just hate the game, I love the engagement, and see you again in something I play for you, for free.